back on that idea.
So now the committee is going slide by slide.
Well, I'm not going to go slide by slide.
No,
I'm
it
going
was
to point
good
out.
notes, good notes.
Good notes.
So,
34, right?
yeah.
34, good.
Yes. So you had the models, correct?
Yeah.
For aim 2. So in aim 1, you included several of these cardiometabolic variables you adjusted for. But here in model 1, you chose only to include the demographic factors, the social factors, years of education, and then the genetic one. Why not including hypertension, diabetes medication, hypercholesterolemia? You had the data, so.
Yeah, no, we definitely could have. I think in this aim, we wanted to show how adding the biomarkers would be predictive above and beyond a very, very basic model that was literally like the simplest model we could think of that would account for a good percent of the variance. So we tried to think about, I think later on when like all of our analyses were kind of not really showing up as significant, we were like, well, maybe we can add some of these more clinical factors. But the aim, for this aim, we specifically wanted to show that the biomarkers would, when added to a model, would improve prediction. So even if model 1 for this specific aim, explain more of the variance in cognition with like the vascular risk factors, the purpose of the aim was to assess really model 2 in comparison, and it wouldn't have, I promise you.
I challenge you on that with all due respect, because I mean, using all these models for planning and which review in cardiovascular immunology and others, really as a clinician, you try to put this in the temporal translation. You need to go on practical grounds. You should include what is now common practice, and especially after the spring results, and you can argue that maybe hyperglycemia may have evolved combined with insulin resistance. Some preliminary data from Lucinger's work on the potential benefits on reducing hyperglycemia, hyperinsulinemia, on executive function, but that's a study that actually we're about to start with the pain moment. But if you want to provide a very helpful answer on whether brain MRI biomarkers, and you call it that biomarkers, I'm more inclined to say, well, this is sort of a proxy of subclinical disease. You can debate that. I'm interested in knowing, okay, I go for the cheapest approach, which is the demographic factors, socio-demographic factors, the clinical factors. I might not have the ApoE for characterization, so I would have proposed model 1 without the genotyping on the basic clinical and socio-demographic. You may add the allele status on top of that, and then you test this brain MRI biomarker of subclinical disease, because that's how, at least if you use as a reference, the improved prediction values for subclinical disease for cardiovascular disease with vascular calcification or carotid intimal thickness. You try to know if you add that and you are improving prediction. So using that parallel approach, maybe you could test that. And knowing the limitations that you may have with all this complexity and fitness testing of the model, but that would have been an important answer, especially when you have an R-square only of 0.3. So that means that you still have a lot of room to improve predictive value. And always have in my mind the question, so if you have blood pressure, let's say in the model, so is it going to behave different adding the brain MRI biomarker data or not? I mean, I don't know, I don't recall the specific improvement or the difference in the sprint mind publication, so maybe you can comment on that. Is it speed processing, was executive function, which one? To say, well, this is sort of driven on those specific domains, so you bring back that to what you are showing in your dissertation.
Yeah, no, definitely model 1 could have been optimized for predicting cognition based on a variety of whatever covariates that we wanted. So we could definitely do that.
And then this doesn't subtract at all on the grade value of your dissertation. I'm saying, as a consumer now, scientific literature, I'm interested in reading your publication in JAMA Neurology. Well, I would like to have that kind of answer,
I'm like,
or not. Well, I'm just making that comment.
So
sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from your world to cardiovascular, you know, and so I was surprised when I went back after all years to neurocognitive that they called these biomarkers. Well, you will need to prove that they're biomarkers first, right? And so for us, and not biomarkers until they prove and they bring, you know, above, you know, what the standard sort of cardiovascular risk factors are. And you need to show that changing with some therapies, you actually can reduce or you can improve biomarkers. So it really has a lot of functions that biomarkers to be called biomarker needs to sort of fulfill. So, but that's not criticism for your thesis.
Oh no, I think it's
just
fine. Yeah.
In the field, it's very interesting to me.
I think it's a very interesting notion because wonderful presentation, wonderful science. But I'd like to do a little bit more of a deep dive into the methodology. So first of all, yeah, I'm struck with the fact that we're left without a gold standard. So if you're in Alzheimer's disease research, Dickerson's AD-prone regions would not qualify as a biomarker. They are just regions that tend to be not specific to Alzheimer's disease, just they're seen in Alzheimer's disease. So they're hardly a biomarker. Number two, there's really not a clinical vascular gold standard as well. So one of the things is we're talking about all of this causal modeling that you were doing. And actually, in my mind, I did not have any anchor points vis-a-vis Alzheimer's disease or cerebral vascular disease. So it led me to the following questions, methodologically. Number one, when you looked at white matter burden, was that total white matter burden? Or was it a composite? What was it? What was the score?
In the first, it's the total white matter hyperintensity volume.
Right.
Volumetric.
Right. So for example, that would include paraventricular and outside of the paraventricular regions in terms of white matter disease.
Well, we defined it in the cholinergic white matter tracts, and I think some of those are paraventricular.
Okay. Yes. So the reason I want to ask this is Alzheimer's disease is well known. It's associated with paraventricular leukoariosis, leukomalacia. And as you get more and more impaired, you get more PVLs, okay? And they extend probably towards the cortical ribbon as you get more severe. So one of the concerns, if you're using things that are outside of the paraventricular region and in the paraventricular region, then the question is what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because if indeed all of your models were, to my mind, they were what are called recursive models. They were called recursive models. You were actually predicting a unidirectional relationship among variables. But if in the real world, as you have Alzheimer's disease, you actually have more paraventricular white matter disease in some of the cholinergic areas. It could be that you need non-recursive modeling, which actually allows for reciprocal effects. Because I think we're assuming that vascular causes all of these. And many people in the field actually believe that people who have Alzheimer's disease have many white matter pathologies in many different places. In fact, Charlie DeCarli has spent a lot of his life doing so. Second thing is did you combine the hemispheres? Okay. So what was the rationale in combining the hemispheres, given that in Alzheimer's disease, it's often an asymmetric disease. It actually starts in one hemisphere, and if you combine hemispheres, you could actually wash out effects. Did you actually look at it by left versus right, and was there a difference?
I didn't look at it as left versus right. That wasn't something that we considered, but we could, for sure. Sightedness is something.
I think a journal editor probably would want that.
We did look at it
in another paper,
published in Vitamins. We didn't see a significant left and right. Except some
because you would think with the different neuropsychological tests, and you didn't have a visual spatial domain, maybe you didn't have the test in OMAS to look at visual
We
spatial.
had tests for it, but they labeled it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So different hemispheric functions should map on, and different regional functions should map onto different cognitive processes.
Right.
So by not looking at cognitive processes by region and hemisphere,
Yeah. Maybe some stuff washes out, or.
well, we have been criticized a lot of times when we've submitted papers where we try to combine them, and they actually, and then they actually make us partition it out, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it's in between. So, did you look for literacy levels? I noticed your educations were very low, with a very big standard deviation.
Yeah.
And did you make sure everybody was literate and had gotten RAT scores? And did you co-vary by RAT scores for literacy?
There are RAT scores. We didn't add those in the models.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jen Manley had done that in YCAP.
Yeah.
And you might want to do it because it changed her whole results when she controlled for literacy.